All right, first thing we need to do to resize, of course, is we need to open our original image. So we go to File, Open, and that would be where you'd pick. I'm going to go down to a cool little thing called Open Recent. This will let you open things that were open earlier. In my case, we're going to open a picture that I opened earlier for this tutorial. Now, here's my picture. If you notice, several things about resizing is this picture right here is very, very large. It's going to be way too big to put on the web, and so we want to make it smaller. There's two ways to do this. I'm going to show you both ways, and then we're going to go from there. The first way to do it is to do this. Go up to Image, pull down to Image Size. Several things to look at here. First of all, this picture is 4,288 by 2,848 pixels, which means it's a very large pixel. It also means that this particular image is 34 meg. If you were to email this picture, if you were to send it to anybody, it would take your email forever to upload this and get it sent. The other thing to look at is this picture is 9 by 14, or 14 by 9, depending on how you look at it, at 300 dots per inch. That means for every little inch of picture, there's 300 dots of color, which is a very fine, very high picture, but a computer monitor can only see 72 dots per color. So the quickest, easiest way to resize this is just to take that 300 and change it to 72 and hit OK. Now if you notice, your picture then resizes pretty small. Sometimes your picture will resize up into the corner like this, which yours may have done. All you have to do is do exactly the opposite of what I just did, grab that corner and pull it out. Now you may go, oh, this is way too small, but if you look up here, we're looking at this picture at 33%. So if I click down here on my little magnifying glass tool and click 1, 2, 3 times or so, I now have my picture at 100%. This is a much more manageable picture to use. So that would be my first way to resize. Then what you would do is you would go File, Save As. The reason you don't want to hit Save is because if you do, you'll copy over your original, unless you have your original somewhere else. I would not recommend doing this just because you never know when you might want a full high-resolution original to use later. So I would say Save As. I would then save it somewhere where I want. In this case, I'm going to save it to the desktop. And I am going to call it something like water, in this case. I'm going to make sure this little guy down here, all these little choices, I'm going to make sure it says JPEG, and I'm going to hit Save. I generally leave this at 12 because it just means that it's at the highest quality. Let me show you the difference. If I drag this down to 0, you may or may not be able to see this on your monitors right now, but my picture is very blurred out and very blocky, and the color is absolutely falling apart. I can see that even being colorblind. So I leave it up at 12. I hit OK. I now have a nice resized image that I can play with, do whatever I want with, and then submit to Facebook, email to friends, or whatever I want to do. That's the first way to do it. I'm going to hit Command Z right now, and I'm going to undo to go back to my full size, and I'm going to show you the other way that I do this. The other way to resize is a little more complicated, but it also allows you to crop the image at the same time. It's kind of cool. In this case, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to open a completely new document. It's going to be completely blank. Then we're going to copy this picture into the new document, resize the picture to fit the new document, which we'll call the canvas. So we'll resize the picture to fit the canvas, and then we'll save that. So let me show you how we do that. We start by going File, New. There's many different choices. You can have the default Photoshop size. Desktop is one that I created. Paper would be 8.5 by 11, so on and so forth. In this case, seeing as we're doing this for web, I'm going to click on Web. Once that's done, underneath I have many different options: 640 by 480, 800 by 600, 1024 by 768, so on and so forth. I generally like to default at 1024 by 768. I then hit OK. I then panic because my original picture disappeared and I don't know where it is. It's actually not that bad. It's actually right here. This works like tabs in the new Internet Explorer, the new, Safari, and so on and so forth. So I can tab between this picture, and I can go back and forth. So let's go back to the big picture here, and let's go ahead and click on the arrow at the top of the page. I am now going to select the entire picture. There's different ways to do this. I could click on this little guy right here, and I could drag across the entire screen to select it, but that takes too long. I'm a big believer in using my keyboard to speed things up, so I'm going to hold down the Command key, which is also the Control key for those of you on PC, and hit the letter A. If you notice at this point, there's a nice little dashed line all the way around this. It may or may not show up on your monitor, but you have selected everything. I'm going to hold down my Command or Control key again and hit the letter C. This copies my entire picture. I'm then going to click over here on my brand new canvas. I'm going to hold down my Command key again and hit the letter V. There's my picture. Now, if you notice, the picture is a lot bigger than the canvas. So at this point, we need to resize the picture to fit the canvas. The easiest way to do this is to click over here on our little magnifying glass tool and zoom out. I'm going to hold my Option key down so that I get a minus, and I'm going to zoom to where this picture is actually fairly small, and there's a reason for that. I'm then going to go up and click on my arrow over here at the very top with all my little buttons. Also, I'm going to go up to this little top area right here to make sure something that says Show Transform Controls, I'm going to make sure that that's checked. Because when it is checked, you actually get to see in a little dotted line the actual dimensions of the big picture that we just moved over. I'm then going to click, or actually I'm going to hold my mouse over the very bottom right-hand corner of my picture. It's a little box. And when I do, as I get closer, there's different things that happen. As I get closer, I may see a arrow that has a curve with another arrow on the other side. It kind of looks like a little curved arrow sort of thing. Keep moving in, and when I get directly over the little right-hand corner box, I get an arrow that shows that I can resize this thing. I then hold down my Shift key while I'm resizing. Shift key first, then push my mouse button, and resize my picture. And if you notice, my picture is getting small enough to fit. What I generally do is resize the picture to where it's closer to the size I want. I then hit Enter or Return. I then zoom back into my picture so I can do a little bit more fine resizing closer up. At this point, click back up on your arrow, and you can drag this picture around however you want it to fit on the canvas. If you're still not quite sure you like the way it's resized, hold down the Shift key, click on the corner, and just keep resizing it until you get it the way that you like it. Once you get it set up exactly how you like it, then you're good to go. Remember, you can always just click and hold the mouse button anywhere on the resizing area. When you're done, either double click or hit Enter. And there's your resized picture. Now is a quick minute to talk about layers, and we'll talk more about layers in a whole separate lesson because it deserves its own separate lesson. But if you look over here, you have layers. Layers are set up like a deck of cards. This layer 1 is the big picture that we dragged over and sat on top of the canvas. So now they're sitting one stacked on top of the other like a deck of cards. So if you're completely happy and satisfied with the way you cropped your image, in order to save it, you have to flatten this, as it's called in Photoshop, which means everything needs to be sitting on one layer. That's really easy. Just go up under Layer, pull down to Flatten Image. When you're done, you're all set, ready to go. You can then go File, Save, or you can do Save As. It doesn't matter at this point because this was a brand new document. We're going to call this Water 2, just because we already have water taken. Hit Save, make sure it's 12, and say OK. The advantage of doing things this way is it doesn't touch your original, and it allows you the opportunity to crop your image at the same time. Hope you enjoyed.